Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Book. We are having a Q&A live session around marriage. So I've collated a few of your questions over the course of the last few weeks that you guys have been asking in the chats. I told you guys I was collating at the time, and I really meant it. Today we're gonna use your questions to have a live. That doesn't mean that you can't ask questions in the chat. Still, we want to see more of your questions. Hopefully, we'll get round to them. You know, if we get through all the questions, we'll get round to yours. We'll get on to it. If not, I'll collate it for the next time. All right. So today I am joined by two lovely, honorable guests. You have seen them before. Yes, they're lovely faces. Listen, guys, before you lot got here, listen. I had Curtis was on the ropes. Curtis on the ropes. He had to go and get water, and he was on the ropes. Okay, so wherever you are seeing right now, that's him on the ropes. So I'm joined by two lovely, honorable guests today. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves as always. But it's good having you guys together. If I let Curtis go first, and then we'll let Juanita introduce herself as well.
So what am I representing today? I'm representing, I guess, the Marriage Council UK.
Tell them about
it. Are we going there right now?
Go on, tell them about it, sir.
The Marriage Council UK, we have exclusive content and questions answered around relationships and marriage, dating. We go in, and this is exclusive. If you visit our Patreon channel, you will find some content there. It's growing every week. Visit us there, the Marriage Council UK, and I'm going to hand you over to Juanita.
The water talking.
That way, yeah. Hi, I'm Juanita. I am from This Is Marriage UK. I'm the other half of This Is Marriage UK, who is this man here. And we offer and we have been offering for 5 years direct talk, talking about subjects that you don't want to talk about, going places where you wouldn't dare to go, in order for you to have better relationships, not only with others, but even with yourself. So join us on This Is Marriage UK on our Instagram page. And also, This Is Marriage UK on YouTube as well. You'll find some way old content from when we were way younger and some current stuff as well. Thank you.
You lot are still young, by the way, don't worry.
Still young.
Still young.
Right.
So today we are dealing with Q&A. That means your questions that you guys have been asking us, we are going to be dropping the answers to them today. So I've got my questions all loaded up and ready to go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, man. Here we go.
I wanted to make sure the sound wasn't going real crispy, just to make sure it's all crisp. All right, cool. So first question we have here is, how do you deal with your stuff before marriage? And I put here, I'm guessing they meant baggage. I think this was in an episode back where we were talking about, sorting yourself out before you get into a marriage. So how do you deal with your stuff before you get into a marriage, if it's possible?
You're going there already.
I went deep straight.
That's just a jugular right there.
Yeah, we ain't playing around.
Do you know what? Sometimes you don't even know you got stuff. Sometimes you don't even know you got baggage. Do you know what I mean? You're just coming in, late teens, early 20s, life's good. You've done uni, you're traveling, you're working. Your money is your money. Life is your life. So you don't even recognize that there is baggage. There are specific times that I can recall in my life, just as I met her, and even just before, I recognized that the baggage, I don't even want to call it baggage, but the issues of being fatherless, a daddyless girl, started to rise up to the surface. And I started to begin to deal with my thoughts about not having a father around or being around an abusive father. And so stuff like that came to the surface just when I started to meet Kurt. The rest of the baggage...
Although I didn't see it then.
You didn't see it then, no? But
not until we was engaged. Not until we was engaged.
Not until we was engaged, yeah. And then it started to come out. And it's not that I concealed it. It's that some things lay dormant and then they bubble up as like a volcano. Do you know what I mean? You can't contain baggage. You can't carry it for too long. So I always say to people who are on the cusp of anything serious to start unpacking your bags. You really do know what it is in the back of your mind. Start unloading, start unpacking your bags. Do you know what I mean? And so that was a baggage that I was aware of. The rest came after engagement and then more in marriage. And even more so, more comes out even now, especially in the time of COVID when there are no voices, there's not much distractions. Baggage is still within.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear, guys, if you don't know, this is my wife. You know, it could go this way, but it's actually this way. It's this way, right? You know, we've been married 19 and a half. What am I talking about?
You might as well say 20.
Nearly 20 years-ish. 3 children. One is big enough to not even tell us that she's coming home right now. We're waiting. She's at restaurant. Didn't even tell anyone what she's doing. So we have 3 children, and children can make it come out. And so if you don't, I remember one particular day when Charlie was born. This was 17 years ago. Charlie had the cold, Juanita had a cold, and I had a cold. And it sounds small, but we hadn't slept. And so circumstances will force you. It will force the baggage out anyway. And so it's like, how do you deal with stuff before marriage? Some things you can deal before marriage, and some things will come out as life pleases. There's no way around that. You can't deal with everything before you get there. It's not necessarily just about dealing with it. It's about being prepared to deal with it when it comes. So it's the grace for that as well. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Question number 2. What is the difference between expectation versus standards?
Ooh.
He wants this.
These questions, boy.
I know.
Spice.
I suppose expectations are something that you haven't voiced but is within. So it's within. I expect in England in mid-August around Carnival weekend the sun will not shine. I don't have a fact.
That's a fact.
I haven't voiced it, but previous experience has informed my expectation, you know, so I don't get the shorts out that weekend because I'm like, it ain't gonna happen. But I haven't necessarily voiced that, but inside it's like a reverse hope, because expectations can be good and bad. And so I would say that is what I would see expectations as. Standards I would see as something more close to your values. This is what I've seen in my home, in my community. This is what I emulate. This is what is good for me. This is what fits closely to who I am. So my standard is, for example, the standard could be, I do not, and it sounds negative, but I do not want a man to raise his hand on me. That is my standard. But in my head, when I meet a man, I'm expecting him not to. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would say that's me without getting too wordy. That's what I would think it would be.
Like that. Cody.
Interesting one. You know, expectations are built around information that we gather. And we can gather that information independently. We can gather that information culturally. But I think that they're the same thing. My thing is, expectations tend to be built around our desires. You know, I want sex this much times a week. You know what I mean? Standards are often there to protect people. Why are you smiling?
Because what is the standard to that?
I'm coming. Because the standard should be
You're gonna pull out again.
standards are there. I mustn't forget that we are in the same home, so I'm going to get it.
He never gets it.
Standards are there as a protective measure, and so it's like you say, no sex before marriage is standard. It's not an expectation. So these are like boundaries that you set to get the best outcomes. Expectations is really about our desires, isn't it? It's like, I want my man to earn so much money. We watched, what was the show, Ready for Love, where the woman just, the one I got voted off recently, she's like, I want my man to pay hard or pay the bills. And it's
the
like,
bills.
yeah, that's, huh?
The bills.
She wants the bills to be paid.
Yeah.
And some guys are cool with that. But the problem with expectations is that we mustn't impose them. They have to be very flexible. They have to be flexible, because all you're doing is you're just blocking so many possibilities and blocking your relationship as well. So even if you are in a relationship and you've got unrealistic expectations or expectations that are not fair, expectations that are not fair, and so literally, one of you could be like, look, man, I want sex X times a week. But the other person might not want that. And that is an expectation. It's not a standard. Because the standard really is about saying, we need to have sex. Expectations is, let's put a number on it. Do you know what I mean? And so we have to be careful about standards. Even standards can be messed up too. I don't know if we're going to anymore, Juanita. I don't know.
I suppose you could, a standard could be culturally banned. For example, St. Lucian's brown the chicken, even though I'm a vegetarian.
What the heck is browning?
They brown that, put sugar in the pot and make the chicken brown.
I did not know she was vegetarian. I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm a veggie, but I remember seeing my mum's side of the family do that, where I go out with a Jamaican origin guy, and he's just like, what the heck is browning? You get me? Well, that's a standard. That's how you cook chicken, is standard.
Yeah, this is how you cook rice and peas.
But he has a different standard to me, so standards can vary as well.
Yeah. You got to be flexible, even if you're both Jamaicans, both St. Lucians. you got to be flexible, man. Even your standards have to just be able to bend, because this is about survival. This is not about standing up on a pedestal and thinking it's going to work. It's just standards that actually change over time.
Yeah, and that, because now we don't brown chicken, we brown tofu. That's
a red flag for me.
Veggie food.
That's a messed up
It's a red flag right there for me, to be honest. That's a red flag straight through and through. What would you say is one standard or one expectation? You can choose either one. What would you say is one standard or one expectation that you came into your marriage with?
I had this. I was hoping that I would be heard. I am heard, but that was a standard of mine, was to be heard. Where's he gone?
He heard standard, and that was it. He's out.
He ducked out. It's too late now, mate.
He heard standard. He was ducking.
It's too high. It's too high. Yeah. It was to be heard, and I am heard, so that standard was met. The expectation was that what he heard, he would agree with all the time. And he doesn't. So I've got to change those expectations and say, actually, we're very different, and I can't expect to have a clone of myself. And he doesn't hear things the same as me. Still working it out.
What would you say, Curtis? One expectation or one standard that you came into the marriage with?
Listen, that I expected, it's a funny one, really. I expected my wife not to argue with me. You know, yes, I got married with a lot of naivety, which is completely normal, actually. It's actually completely normal. I don't feel ashamed of that. I expected that we would talk. I expected her to not be frustrated or upset, but rather say, "Hey, Curtis, baby, I love you so much. I just want your opinion on this. You know, I want that. Seeing as we've been married for, you know, a year and a half, I just wanted to tell me, what do you think about this?" And I'll be like, "Nah." And she'll be like, "Okay, because he knows best, you know." However, I married a half St. Lucian woman, and she has an opinion, and there's a flip side to that, right? Because the flip side is that my wife won't take nonsense, and I need that. And she has a valid opinion, and I need to pull it back. And so there's a flip side to it all. And my expectation was that I wanted her to react this way when she was frustrated. I had a plan for Juanita, like, and things I never imposed it. It was just like, when it never happened, I was like, huh? Like, just keep bowing for man. Just keep bowing for me. You know what I'm saying? That was my expectation.
Love that. Question number 3 came from the audience. I think it's a very good question. I was going to ask this question anyway. It says, how do you deal with, how do you deal with when your other half disappoints you or hurts you? It's actually one of my questions anyway, so in fact, they've asked it, it's good. So how do you deal with your other half when your other half disappoints you or hurts you? They are going deep today.
Yes, they are. They are.
Trying to swim deep for pearls.
Juanita, go first.
I deal with it very differently than Curtis deals with it.
Tell them.
I have a problem with the way he deals with hurts and disappointments, but the way I deal with it, I think I'm like a firework. I'll get it out and then come right back down and just be like, okay, I'm cool. I'm rational. I'm ready to understand. I'm ready to receive. And actually, I say, I want to resolve things very quickly. So I will say, this is how I've been affected. Let's talk about it. And I want to be heard and understood of how it's impacted me. But I want a resolution and understanding swiftly.
Get over it, Curtis.
Yeah, I think I'm always conscious of, well, it's you who hurt me, so it's me who gets over it.
No.
Yeah, that's the question.
Come on.
No. This wasn't a question for you to go and bust me up on camera, you know.
No, I'm doing you nice. That's the code.
This is nice. No, I'm joking. So,
you never.
No, I'm only joking. Carry on.
Yeah.
Carry on.
So what I'm saying is that now I've forgotten, but I'm trying to grab it back together and say that I voice it. I say, look, you hurt me here. This is how it hurts, and this is why it hurts. And maybe I'm willing and open to understand that maybe it hasn't even got much to do with you. It could come from back there somewhere, but you've triggered something. So I can have conversations like that, and I want a resolution or understanding quickly. I don't like things dragging out.
This is an interesting one. I'm going to give you the other side of it, actually. But bearing in mind, this is such a broad question, because it doesn't have much context. But Juanita just hit the nail on the head. Really, it's there's always a context to hurt. It's not just hurt, and sometimes we are hurt because of, again, going back to our expectations, which might be unfair, unmet expectations, and so with me, I tend to kind of take time quietly by myself to manage to process, or I just need to quietly just do my thing whilst I'm dealing with it because I'm upset. Even if I hurt her, I would just, okay, so you've said what you said. Give me some time to deal with this. Now there's a problem with that. And it's not that the problem is that the way I'm coping is bad. The problem is that Juanita's expectation is that I just deal with, like, she's let off her steam, and so I must deal with it. So the question is, how do you deal with it when your other half disappoints you? You also have to recognize that the way that you receive or manage that disappointment could create even more offense. So even if I was to upset Juanita, or do something to Juanita, I can upset her further by just going quiet. Yeah. And even if I say, look, I just need time to process this, she may say, I don't care. Just get over it real quick for me because I don't like that distance. Creates more problems. You know? So it's not just about the fact you've been disappointed. It's really understanding your disappointment deeper than it just hurt. And then allowing the other person to manage their and process, and then coming back and having a conversation about it. That all sounds easy, but it's not. Sounds easy.
Let it out, bruv.
That was a heavy one.
You know what it is? You know what it is? It's we are trying to recover. So, you know, after you go to hospital, you've had surgery or you've had an injury, just like the footballers on the pitch, we are trying to recover after an injury. And some people take longer than others. And so in that space is what you do with that space. And then when your leg is better or when you're resting, let's have a conversation about the event.
Yeah.
That's hard. But it has to be done.
Okay, that's real. Question number 4 is, I said number 4, but I've kind of skipped one. But it says, what about if, oh my gosh, this English that person's put, what about if the change in marriage is on the verge of compromising? I guess obviously, what about if you have to, I'm guessing if you have to change in a marriage and it's on the verge of you compromising about what you once held as a conviction. So I'm guessing the person held a conviction, and obviously the compromise in the relationship means relinquishing the conviction that they have. These questions are coming out here. I am so glad I'm not on this panel. These are heavy, bro. Yeah. So if one of you can take on the task.
So just do me a favor, rephrase the question again, my scholar.
So I think what the person is trying to allude to here is that what if there's a need for change in the marriage? That's if the person's maybe asking for change in the marriage. So there's a compromise that happens, but that compromise means that you have to relinquish your conviction that you once held. So let's say something is a problem in a relationship. I don't know. Let's say, you know, you don't kiss. It's your thing, whatever. It's your conviction. God told you not to kiss, or you feel like God has told you not to kiss, whatever. And you're on the verge of obviously compromise, but that compromise means relinquishing that conviction. I guess, how do you go about having that conversation? Maybe should you change that conviction? You know, yeah, it was question was a bit, the way it's worded is a bit off, but I think I understand where it's going.
I think I understand it. I think it's really asking about, you know, if I believe that we don't eat pork in this house, like, that's not a good, maybe. Or certain sexual acts. When remember we was going through marriage counselling. Remember we went, not marriage counselling, relationship counselling before we got married. Remember? One.
I do, and it's not that I don't. It's that the sound was going a bit.
Oh right, okay. When you went to relationship counselling,
it still is doing that. I don't know why.
Hold on, let me do that. Hold on, go for it now. Go on, Coach. You ready to go? Go for it now.
Yeah. Can you hear one?
I have to sometimes mute her because you're in the same house, innit? So when you talk, I'll mute. When he talks, I'll mute Juanita.
Is that what's happening?
She's fine when she talks, but yeah.
Okay, so I remember years ago, just before we got married, a few months before we got married, we went to a relationship retreat. There were married couples there and relationships there, and this couple was like, there was 3 of us I think it was 3 of us in the room, Juanita, and Juanita and I were in the middle, so we're in couple, sitting in chairs, 6 of us in the room, and then there was the therapist, which were husband and wife, and one of the couples, the guy, the therapist said, or the hosting couple said, so let's talk about sex. What do you think about oral sex? Now, there are some cultures, or there are some, some cultures where, I say cultures, I'm talking about the wide variety of people in British society who just, no, I'm not on that. I'm not on oral sex. And so when they said that, Winnie and I were just like, okay, let's talk about it. Another couple was just kind of, they didn't really show much emotion about it. But this other couple, they were like, the brother was like, no, sir, me nah do that, man, me nah do that there. that is Sodom and Gomorrah. And his woman was sitting there going, what? So obviously, she's got this thing, or she's convicted that it's okay, and he's convicted that it's actually not only wrong but a sin, right? And so I found that we found it hilarious because it's going to be an issue. Do you know what I'm saying? And so my thing is like, what if we could say, to save my marriage now, let me think about this. This is what I'm trying to say.
What do you mean? What do you mean, mate? What do you mean?
Right. So what am I saying? I'm saying,
go on. Mm-hmm.
What I'm trying to say is that sometimes these convictions that we have, they're not conducive to any relationship. I'm not saying that was or wasn't. I'm just saying that some of our convictions aren't necessarily conducive to the relationship in anyone you're with. Sometimes our convictions are just based on personal disgust. What's the right way to go? I don't think there's a right way to go. I think you just have to work it out.
Go on,
there's no way I can, sorry, I'm talking so much here. There's no way I can sit here and say, no, you should do it because I'm a liberal. Actually, he may hate that for various reasons. His woman is going to have to bend her conviction, or he have to reconsider his. One of the problems that he had was he felt it was a sin. And I'm like, if you didn't think it was a sin, would it be okay? So some of our convictions are built around religious or social norms that aren't conducive for any relationship. Let me hand you over.
Go on,
yeah, I think that convictions do not have to remain convictions. There's nothing set in stone, written in tablets. Do you know what I mean? You have to be flexible in bending some areas. Not stuff that hurts you, not stuff that brings physical harm to yourself or emotional harm, any type of harm. But convictions need to be compromised all the time. Do you know what I mean? And that's what a marriage is. That's the contract. That's working it out, and then you form convictions together. Or new convictions, or think that doesn't work anymore. Let's tweak it. Let's change it. We can keep this moving. We can keep it alive, dynamic, organic, and fluid, so the convictions can change.
Oh,
I can hear Kurt talking, but I can't hear him talking.
Hold on, Kurt. Why is this thing gone off? Wait, it might be me. Hold on. Sorry. Go again. Hold on.
No.
Go again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you can.
I was saying that sometimes God in history has been flexible with Israel. God has had his standards and he's bent them for the greater good. That sounds crazy. I grew up in a Christian religion, where it was believed that that wasn't the case. But if you look at history, God has been like, let me allow them because of where they're at. Because he's looking way down the road and thinking, actually, this is the relationship I want with them. I want them to see that I've bent for them. And it sounds scary for us to say that God has bent it, but that greater good is hard to distinguish sometimes. But that has been a part of our marriage, even with our children. For them to see that there is flexibility, because I don't want them to grow up rigid, because rigid just means there's no progress. And that's the other problem with a lack of moving on your convictions.
Oh, go for one of you. Sorry about that.
Rigid can snap. Do you know what I mean? I was watching. We've been watching the Small Axe series, and it's been so nostalgic for us, taking us back in the era that they're talking about. We were growing up in that era. We were like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We were watching the Lovers Rock dances downstairs in the front room. Do you know what I mean? We were flipping over toast, on the cooker. And there's one thing. There was a scene that I saw on Sunday, in the most recent one, which was about education. And the wife came straight in the door with her coat on from her night shift, and went straight into the kitchen, picked up the kettle, put it on, and didn't say a word to her husband for a good couple of minutes, and then said, "Do you want a cup of tea?" And you could say that's the old Caribbean way, or that's the old way of doing things. But I looked at it as an area that needed to be compromised in, because you could have stopped for a second and said, you know what, I'm going to take my coat off and I'm going to give him a smashing kiss, or he's going to pat me on my behind. Do you know what I mean? And then I'm going to ask him for a cup of tea. There needs to be a flexibility in routine. There needs to be a compromising in many areas of our life, even if it means when you come in the door, you don't go to the sink with your coat on, make that cup of tea and say hello 10 minutes later. That you have an element of flexibility around your convictions.
Africa.
Even religious conviction, which is probably a lot of the issue. It's okay to bend.
I like that. Question number 4 or 5. Could compromising be considered equivalent to bribery? Listen, this is what was there. I mean, I don't know who wants to answer that, but
depends who you are. It depends on your motives. I don't use bribery here. Curtis doesn't use bribery here. So it depends on your heart motives. So that's a question really it's a rhetorical question to ask yourself. It's not a tactic of mine yet, but it's not a tactic of mine.
Wait, did you just say yet?
I said it's not a tactic of mine.
Okay.
I heard you say yet, Juanita. I heard you say yet. So I'm watching. I'm watching
that for the banks, boy. Yeah. Yourself, Curtis, you know, compromising to consider to be equivalent to bribery? No.
I think the question is slightly flawed. So it's not. Compromising is literally weighing up the costs and giving and meeting someone at least halfway, or giving up your position. Bribery is when you're trying to take something away from someone when it doesn't need to be, or by trying to defraud someone. I remember looking up definition a little while ago on bribery. They're completely different, and bribery is about intent. For harm or to take from someone else when it's not just. So they're not the same.
Cool. Got my next question. Hold on a minute. Questions are dangerous. I hope you guys are ready, man.
I'm not ready.
They're not ready.
Nope.
Ready. All right. So question number 6 is, why does it seem like people don't want to even take time to date or to court?
As opposed to?
Hey, brother, I'm just here to ask the questions, bro. Okay?
I mean, you're muted.
Go on, yeah.
As opposed to taking time.
I'm guessing people like.
Why do people want to rush?
Yeah, well, I guess why people don't want to take time to even date or court. I guess. I mean, guessing probably jumping into sex before marriage and stuff like that. So why do people jump into all that stuff? I mean, I can't answer that question. I don't know what that's about. So.
Yeah, I think that's what I was thinking. Juan, do you want to go first, or do you want to?
Yeah, There's a rapper I love called Propaganda, and he talks about slow cook. Do you know what I mean? And letting things take time and marinate. And I just feel that there is a rush generally on life. And so that spills into our relationships as well. We're always rushing to and fro. I mean, the Bible even prophesied that in the end we'll be running to and fro, doing this and that. There's always a need for a rush. There's always a need for, I suppose, a feeling of euphoria, as opposed to taking the time and the waiting period as euphoric. We just want this end goal and this end feeling, which is unfortunate. There is a nice period in dating and in courting. There's a nice feeling that, I'll tell you the truth, you never get back again. You get a different feeling later, and your feelings change and grow and even become even better than when you first met. It's possible. But that initial feeling, me and Kurt often go back to it in jokes and say, remember that time we used to meet at Tottenham Court Road Station and let 10 tubes go past, do you know what I mean? Or yeah, stuff like that, when we used to, meet in Battersea Park for walks, and there was such a feeling, a carefree feeling about it. And so when I look back, I think, why do people want to rush that? Why do people want to push through that? Because at that time, the body's flooded with endorphins, you're on your best behavior, you're on your P's and Q's. Stay there as long as you can. But no one tells you to stay there as long as you can, because the media just shows, you see her walking down the street, you go for a coffee, you end up in the white room with the white sheets and the white beds. You do the thing, the sheets are still white. She gets up, she don't brush her teeth, but she still looks crisp.
Honestly.
And she just keeps it moving. So they show a very, a lifetime story within an hour and 10 minutes. And so it's all rushed. So we feel like, well, this feeling, we've just got to get to the end. And it's like, slow cook, man. Slow cook. We used to have a thing called a pressure cooker back in the day. And our grandmas used to cook peas in that tin for a good 8 hours, bruv. A good 8 hours, to get a good rice and peas, the pressure cooker was on for a long time. That was a good meal after. Now we just 10 seconds in the microwave and it's done. Slow cook your stuff. Slow cook. Even the breath you take in. When I go out for a walk, draw that in. Draw it out slowly, because someone is losing theirs while you're taking yours in. Slow cook the time you have with your children. Slow cook, even your time in the bath. Just slow it right down. I'm speaking to myself here. Slow cook it, man.
There's another couple of things I want to add, and one of them is trauma, and the other one is I don't think it's ever changed. I think that can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. Oh, sorry. So let me go for it.
Can you hear me, one?
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever changed. I think that men have always been gratifying themselves sexually. It's just that it's more acceptable now. But we've had this day in Greece, in Rome, Medo Persia, Babylon. It's been the same. There are some cultures that have gone out there and tried to uphold a standard, but men and women have always tried to just get their sex on whenever they can. It's nothing new. So it's like the question, why does it seem that people don't want to even take the time to date? One of the things that we find in our society in Europe is that because it's not illegal, it's socially acceptable to just go and rush. So with the freedom, it's just easier. But if men can't get it socially, they'll get it through pedophilia, they'll get it by force and rape. And so it's the same thing. It's just lust, just passion that's uncontrolled. It's I'm not saying pedophilia and premarital sex are the same thing. I'm saying what's behind it is that same passion. I want to get my passion. I want to get my feeling. I want to get my climax. I want to get my thing. And so I think that's never changed. We've always been like that. And the other reason, the other thing why people don't want to take the time is past trauma. People cope sometimes through sex. And so past abuse and a coping mechanism for mental health is through just having sex.
Well, you better talk about this.
Yeah, because sometimes people, the only physical fulfillment that some people get is a climax or a feeling of sexuality. At the same time, what's missing? It's that bond, right? That can happen in marriage, believe. You could be married or in a long-term relationship, and the highlight is the hopeful orgasm. And sometimes, I mean, I remember I had a conversation with mental health a few months back in quarantine, and the guy said that people who have either been sexually abused or just absent parents, sex is their go-to. It's no different from food. So people don't rush now because they don't have to, but a lot of people are managing depression. Because if it's not sex, it's drugs. So yeah, that's another reason why people do. And so that's why it's important. When you said it earlier, like you have to start now to look at yourself and understand your behaviors. Just start now. You don't need all the answers. You just need to start now. Because let me just add to that. There's always from a man's perspective, females who are desperate for a father figure or for love will gladly trade their bodies if they can just get a sample. And there's always a guy to take it.
Like it. Here's a comment from Daystar. Says, my issue is needing too much space when I'm dealing too much space when I'm feeling, I'm guessing what? When I'm dealing with upset. When I'm dealing with upset, sorry. Never quite thought about it as it can feel like I'm isolating my partner, or feel like for my partner they're being isolated. Discuss that. We need you to go because Curtis is go on, Wendy, go give it to us.
This is one that I find difficult. Because Kurt needs space. But the space makes me feel rejected.
Ooh,
the space makes me feel like you've left me. The space makes me feel like you're not valuing what I'm saying. You're moving away from me. And that comes from childhood. So I know where it comes from, but me knowing where it comes from isn't having much bearing even right now on how I deal with it. If you move away too long in this head here, you're leaving me. And so I have a lot of work to do to understand after 20 years that actually this is how he processes it and he needs his space. But I've still got I've kind of pushed the boundary to allow him to have that space, but I've still in my head got an internal clock to say, okay, that's enough now. That's enough time. Let's come back now. And then we have to have a conversation and come to a compromise and say, this is hard. I know you need that time, but it's hard for me. So I do feel isolated. I would feel rejected. And maybe, I don't know if this is a woman asking this question, but maybe you may not see it as transparent in the man about how his feelings are when you have your space to deal with you being upset. Maybe he may not be able to articulate it in the same way. So it's worth having a conversation when you're not arguing of how do you feel when I take my space? How does it impact you? What's your cutoff point for me taking that space? Can I take a half a day and not talk to you? Can that roll into a full day? Can that go to 2 to 3 to a week? What is acceptable and what is unacceptable when you do that? And that just sets some boundaries. That sets spoken realistic expectations, because then you know that this is how the person is impacted by what you're doing, and to be willing maybe to change some of that and get through your offense quicker. And realize, why are you offended? Is it about yourself? Is there a selfish motive behind it? But get through your offense swiftly. I also said it because time is not ours. And life is very short, and time shouldn't be wasted in relation to love. And we've heard too many sad stories and seen too many Hollywood films of when people are left angry, and real life stories. And I just feel that to get over it and through it as quick as you can without skating over issues and without being unrealistic, working towards a resolution for me is my number one goal.
Love that. I'm gonna let Curtis respond. Go on, Curtis. Give the rebuttal.
Just leave us to deal with ourselves, man. I mean, this is how we do it.
Oh wait, sorry, William.
No,
he's the other end.
You're
He's
muted,
you,
sorry.
and I'm your other half. Do you know what I mean? So you can hear from his angle who is you.
The truth is, I think that everybody has to take responsibility here. Give me the space to do my thing, and I have to do my thing differently. And I think one of the best ways to manage this is over time. I am learning, and I have learned that I have to be a bit more efficient about my emotional regulation. And that means that I have to, and I can slip up, because when times are really good for a long period of time, and then you relax, and then you don't have to put the work in. But when the road is rocky, a man has to spend more time, because he's on his toes, and he has to spend more time meditating. This is the one thing that has helped me in the past, and it's something that I can't stop doing. I have to do it forever, is to meditate on how I want to be, so that when the time comes, I know how to be. It's just like training in the gym, training in sport. Well, this relationship is just a life sport. I have to say, well, how do I want to respond when she hurts me? And I have found that when I'm prepared, psychologically prepared for the event well in advance, that my management, stop smiling at me, Winnie, my management is better. But but the essence of that person, because what it is, you know what I do? I go quiet because I don't want to say anything stupid. Do you get me? Whereas some men will just kick off, flip a table, or call you everything. We don't swear at each other. We don't call each other names. 50% of the reason why that is because I'm just like, I'm going quiet. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I will not call Juanita names. So I need to go quiet. Juanita needs to give me grace. All right, look, let me leave him for 72 hours.
Oh, freaking hell.
She's not having it. All right, 24, 2 hours.
Getting 2 hours max.
2 hours.
That's again for me.
Well, I can't do that.
Wow.
You can't have 2 hours. It's not going to work. If it's 2 hours, then I'm asking you. Then here we go. Role play. I'm asking you. Then can you be kinder to me so that I don't go for 72 hours?
Oh, she says something. Hold on. Go for Winia.
You're not serious, Kurt. Behave yourself.
We're just in the role one. We're just in the role play.
We're not in the role. I broke role.
And that's the dilemma that we're in. That's the reality of the dilemma. So Juanita was giving me space, and I'm taking less space. I'll leave it there.
Love that. Okay. We've got a question here. It's a deep one again. How do you respond or deal with more difficult in-laws? Who wants to take that one? Go on here.
I'll take it because my in-laws haven't ever been difficult. I'll be honest. I think the only difficulty I found when we were getting married, we chose to make our own wedding invitations. Now, 20 years ago, that was unheard of. But what? This is not the way. This is cheap. But it was. We were creatives, and we made half, and then the in-laws said they don't want that to go out to their people, so they'll buy the other half. And we had to put our foot down and say no. But I'll be honest, I don't have issues with my in-laws at all. I've never had difficult in-laws, and I'm grateful for that. My mum-in-law, God rest her soul, she passed over 10 years ago. But my father-in-law, who still remains, he's like a dad to me, and he treats me with respect. He doesn't get involved in anything. We don't involve him in our own personal stuff. He's a great granddad to the kids. He's a great, father-in-law for me. So I don't have difficult in-laws. Sorry, but how to deal with difficult in-laws?
Yeah, that's the question.
To maybe take your space, know when it's time to go home, because I do know that sometimes that what can happen is that it's one half can be like, we're going to my mum's every night, we're going to eat there, we're going to sleep over, they're going to be all up in our business and our jokes, we're going to go on holiday, we're doing the whole lot. And sometimes it's about taking that space. So when we first got married, I moved up to Curtis's area, and I was working in North London, and many evenings, maybe at least 3 evenings out of the week, we would go to his mum and dad's house. And then after, I was like, look, I've just come from work, a 2-hour journey on the train. I just want to go into, we have our own house. I want to go into our own house. And once we had that conversation and thrashed it out, it got easier. But so it's about setting boundaries, and it's about backing each other. So if your mum-in-law's coming for your wife, you need to back your wife. Especially if she's in around, this is my wife. And maybe wife, don't say too much. Let him have it. Do you know what I mean? Let him speak to his mum and say, Mum, this is my wife. She comes before you, and these are our boundaries, and vice versa. So yeah, it is about setting boundaries with difficult in-laws, and taking your leave of absence as often as you can, because you have been told to leave and to cleave, so you're not doing nothing wrong.
Love that. Cuddy Kurt, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, this happens a lot where one of the couple does not know how to set a boundary between his mother and his wife. Too many men are just trying to live their life as a married man. It happens with women too, but too many. I'm speaking on behalf of men. Too many men don't know how to do that, and what happens is that they're expecting their wife to fall into their ideals, and this is ultimately selfishness and weakness. You have to call it out. I watched a couple of videos this week, man, on this very topic, where the mum-in-law is setting a precedent of how high her relationship is regarded, and the wife is disrespecting the mum now because she's had enough. But she was a rogue girl anyway. But the son had trouble saying to his mum, "Don't do that," even though his voice was up there. There was nothing coming out of his mouth. There's no power. Right. And the problem is sometimes is that some mothers are raising their sons to be their mini-me husbands. Do you know what I'm saying?
Talk about it.
So like, I love my mom. My mom done everything for me, but that's your wife. So a lot of people get married without recognizing the not just the debt, but the status. Because if anyone walks up to your wife and slaps her around her face, what are you going to do? That's my wife. That's my girlfriend. That's my child. That's my son. That's my daughter. But when it's your wife, you need to have that all day long. So fortunately, we've got good in-laws. But if my mum started to disrespect or to draw me away, and it happened at times, not because of me, because I didn't recognize. Do you know what I'm saying? And the thing is, me and my mum, we weren't close, so it wasn't that same kind of thing. But it still happened. When I saw it interfering in my relationship, it took me a little while, but I worked it out. You know what I'm saying? Didn't take too long. But I would never, if I recognize that's my wife, this is my family. And I think one of the things is that we need to, and we spoke about it on the Patreon channel, guys, on the Marriage Council. Just so you know, on the Marriage Council, we've had it's exclusive content. You can subscribe on the Patreon channel. Did I say it again?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. Don't worry.
Yeah. We spoke about the fact that this union is something you have to protect. You have to, instead of marrying someone or dating someone in your own world, you have to go and create your own culture. That's the purpose of leaving and cleaving, is to go and create your own culture and not let anybody disrespect or impede on your culture and your environment. Sorry, Juan, I think you want to say something.
Oh, sorry, let me get in. Go on, Juanita. Sorry about that.
Yes, okay, I agree. In terms of you are building your own culture. Sometimes we think that culture is something that we've taken in from the past, from the ancestors up to now. No, you create your own culture. It's your way of life. This is the way we do things, Mum. This is the way we do things, Dad. So, for example, I remember one time Kurt went to France to do some work, and our oldest was only little then, and I kept like looking at my phone. Was there camera phones then? Just about camera phones, just about smartphones. They weren't even smartphones. And I kept looking at the mobile, thinking, I really miss him. And my mum was just like, leave the man alone. Let him have his time. Now, that worked for you and your house. But for me, I don't mind speaking to him on the hour. It's all right for me. And I think once I set that precedence, like this is fine for me, it was respected. I feel sometimes maybe the parents are also waiting for you to reach that level where you're like, no, this is how we do it. It's kind of like they back off and go, all right, respect, you reach. Some wait for that. Some disregard that. Either way you get it, you still have to set that boundary and say, this is the way we do it. And this person is the one who is first now, not you anymore. And if you're making it difficult, then we're going to have to move back a little bit, move along. And
be prepared to move.
And have those difficult conversations with the in-laws sometimes. Like to say, it's not on. But usually, as it would be, I would allow, say, Curtis to speak to his family about the issue. And I would speak to mine, rather than you're going
either way. Yeah,
because you might not ever fix that dolly house again. You get me? So you have to use a little bit of wisdom and be tactical on it. But yeah, that's what I would say on that.
I like that. A few more questions. Next question we got here is I just lost it. Yes. What strategies would you give for effectively handling conflict? Dun, 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 dun.
It feels like we went in and out of that already, but I understand in terms of stating that don't let too much time pass with your anger. Try not to have arguments late in the night, like in the bed. Ask that question like 2 o'clock in the morning. You're not the same person at 2 a.m. You know, than that person at 6 a.m. You're tired, you're disorientated, you can chat a lot of mess at that time. Do you know what I mean? And it gets messy. So choose the times. Sometimes I remember our counselor 21 years ago said, sit on his lap when you are arguing. It really diffuses it really quickly. You know, or touch your favorite body part. You
Come on now.
You can't argue hard for too long when you're doing stuff like that. Work towards an end goal. Like, what's the point of this? Where are we going with this? And what is the root of this? So there's a journey that the conflict takes, and then sometimes you find like, what the heck was that about? Maybe that was really about a bad day at work, and not even much to do with you. So set that journey. Why is this here? What's the root of it? And where are we going with it? And have some rules of engagement, just like you were in a war. So our rules of engagement are like we don't swear at each other. We don't cuss each other out. We don't say things to hurt intentionally. Some facts may hurt, but there's not an intentional boom, let me just drop this on you and then eat that. Do you know what I mean? And that is some of the rules of engagement. No physical violence is also a way of setting that boundary that we do not do that here. And I always feel like there is, I don't want to sound airy-fairy, but there's something better on the other side. I think usually conflict is not bad. And I think when we go through that time of turbulence and we thrash out some stuff, we actually come out on the other side knowing better, knowing more, and having more of an understanding. So seek to get understanding through your conflict.
Do you want to add, Curtis? No? You good? You think that's it? You good? Like it. Question number 8 says, should I express my anger like my partner instead of suppressing it? How should one exhibit their anger, disappointment, and hurt in a relationship?
It's one, again, I feel like we've touched throughout. I don't know if there's a theme here. And that's taken right back to us.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Go.
I think that one last thing I'd add to that then is to what end? What is your purpose of argument? I think that is easily something very easily missed is the purpose of understanding the purpose of conflict. The purpose of frustration and conflict isn't just about us getting our point over. More often, it's probably less about that. It's more about actually overcoming this hurdle to a greater place. It's always greater if you overcome it. But the question is quite not necessarily loaded, but it's got a lot of issues behind it. So it's like should I do as bad as my partner is doing? That's a silly point to make, isn't it? Because obviously, if that person, suppressing your anger is not a good thing anyway. Managing it is different. Understanding it and actually finding a way to get it out. And sometimes you may need to shout. It's not always bad. But if someone wants to exhibit their hurt and anger, that's a personality thing, for which, even if it's your personality, you still need to curb it. So it looks like we've got someone who's very expressive and someone who is very internal. And everybody, and this is what we had Carla and Emmanuel on, was it last week? On the show, who they are the perfect example of that, because Emmanuel will say what he thinks, whereas Carla would have kept it. And I remember Carla, my sister, by the way, and they gave a deepness on how they learn to manage the differences in the way they manage problems. And they both just met each other in the middle because they love each other. I love you enough to change some of my ways. This hurts you. And so the thing about anger is that, and frustration is that it is all, what's behind it can either be love or it can be to win. And the reason why I'm letting out an argument with you could be about me just trying to get up there. That is the worst thing you could do. When you just look at him a certain way.
Go on, Juanita, respond.
I'm taking it in. We never act like we reach, you know what I mean? We are always learning on the job. So to hear Curtis speak is I want a better word, but it's a revelation. it means that we are always growing. We never act, we never act as a couple like we've reached. 20 years in, we could learn from someone who has been married for 1 year. And so I think when we're hearing each other speak, we can hear the growth. And so that's why I was smiling, because I can hear your growth.
Love it. This question has, like you said, been slightly answered, but I'm going to start asking him because you might get just a little bit different. It says, how do you deal with someone whose anger translates to disappearing and cutting everyone loose? They do this as a response to something that has upsets them. How do you deal with that specific scenario?
I'm just reading it again. How do you deal with someone whose anger translates to disappearing? Oh. Yeah, that's what I said is a hard one for me. And Kurt could disappear downstairs. And I'm just like, he left me. He's gone. So I won't answer it sensibly. Hang on.
Can you hear me?
Go for it, Kurt.
Yeah.
This is that is someone who doesn't have much control. We work with young people, Juanita. You know, I work with young people who, as soon as you say to them, "Why was you late to your appointment?" F you then, walk it off, kick it off, because they haven't learned to emotionally regulate. Can you believe that adults do that too? Yeah, like zero control, zero. And for that, unless you're someone who's going to give you 10 times the amount of grace that you deserve, you will never have a fruitful relationship. You will always have, remember the person you're with, remember, let's add this. The person that we are with, we are teaching them how to be. So I'm with Juanita now. I teach Juanita how to respond to me subconsciously. Understand this, right? She's teaching me, I'm teaching her. So if every time I walk through the door, she's got them ugly jogging bottoms on or that horrible onesie with a head tie on, right? Let's just say, because the way that my wife is dressed now is the way she's dressed all the time. Yeah. Imagine if she dressed like that. She has taught me every day that I step through the door that there's nothing pleasant behind this door. That's just a very basic way of looking at it, okay? It's not necessarily true. If every time I put my arm around her, she stiffens up. If every time I go to kiss, she doesn't have to say anything out of her mouth. She's teaching me her version of love, which is bitter. It's cold, it's frigid, yeah? But these are lessons learned back here. And they control us here. We're not conscious of it. But every time I see my wife now, I'm like, yeah? She taught me and she said not a word. So if every time I flip out and run out the door, I'm teaching my wife that I'm gone. So she will do one of two things. She'll either kick me out the door or she'll keep back some important things that she wants to reveal to me. And she may well give it to someone else or have a nervous breakdown. See that we're teaching each other. Like if every time my wife also says to me, like, let's say she spent money she shouldn't have spent. She made a boo-boo on the finances, right? And when she doesn't even think twice to come to me. She goes, Curtis, I messed up. That's what you want. She knows she can come to me because I'm going to say, okay, I'm screwing, but let's fix this. But if she knows that I'm going to run out the door and kick off, what is she going to do? She's going to hide it. But that's going even deeper now. I've educated my wife how trustworthy I am and how safe I am as a person. She will probably never tell me the truth. If there's a truth in her heart, she won't share it with me because I may run out the door. So when someone's saying, how do you deal with someone's response? Deal with that. Tell that person, they keep doing that, you're gone. Because it won't work. Can I say that, Juanita?
Okay, Juanita, sorry.
Juanita and I don't always agree.
Yeah, Kurt can do that. Cut it dry. It's something that you got to address and you got to work on. That's it, Kurt.
We never really said earlier on. I can't answer this question properly, so she warned us already. So,
but it is a problem. It is a problem. Yeah.
I love that. Last question of today, because there's a million questions. But last question today. I'll collate that one for next live.
It's not anger related, though, is it?
That's new trauma. This one. So no, it's not. It's not. How much responsibility do we have for our parents' trauma? We're going to end on this question today. So how much responsibility do we have for our parents' own trauma?
we don't have any responsibility for our parents' trauma because we weren't the ones who traumatized. It's likely that we weren't even around when they were traumatized, maybe. But what we do have the responsibility for is to look at how that trauma that our parents received has impacted us. And then what to do and to recognize when it rears its head and to talk about it. So early on in our relationship, we spoke about the fact that I came from a domestic abuse household with a serious amount of domestic violence going on. And we spoke about that experience very early in our relationship. The impact of it, Curtis didn't see till later on. And so then he could see it's kind of like vicarious trauma where what happened to my mom I carried as well. I still carry aspects of it, but the responsibility was for me in this trusted space was to open my mouth and say, this is what we've gone through as a family. This is how it's tough. This is how we cannot play fight. This is the tempo I don't like in the voice. This is how it makes me feel. It affects my security. It affects my decision making. It affects the amount of times I check the back door and see if it's locked. Do you see what I mean? So basically, it's airing it out. It's saying, this is who I am, and this is a part of me. If it is possible and you can afford it, then it's good to seek professional counseling to work through it. If it's something you can't do, then you can go on to the Marriage Council UK. If it's something you and you can't, if you can't do that, then it is about just having open and transparent conversations with your partner and saying everybody's got the T's, you know. You could have a small one or a big one. You know, the big one could be that you were on holiday and a tsunami happened. That's a massive trauma. Do you know what I mean? Or the little one could be, you know what? I don't know. I remember somebody opening our car door at the traffic lights and we were in the car. You know, that was scary. That's a traumatic event. Yeah. But in your trusted, safe space in your relationship is where you should deal with this stuff. It has to be dealt with, and that's the best place to deal with it, to say, this is what I bring. And sometimes this could be the root to some of the behavior that you see. It's not an excuse, but this is, it's connected.
Yeah. Kurt, you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I can only add very little because this is Juanita's forte, you know. There's no escaping that we are a chip off the block. You know, you just have to be honest about that. I am a product, and sometimes I'm a product coming from mess. I look at my parents. My dad was born in Jamaica. His mom came here, left him over there. Trauma. You separate. You just suddenly leave your kid for 2, 3, 4 years. Come over. There's more kids. Comes to a country in 50. He comes to a country in what 50, 60 something, 66, I think it was. And he's just come to a racist country. Trauma. Everywhere he turns, he's got to watch his back. Skinheads chasing him down the road. Trauma. That passes that on to me. How does he have a relationship? My dad was married for 35 years, something like that. How does he have a relationship? My mum comes from a line of abuse, trauma, rejection, trauma. How did her mum treat her? Could she connect with some of the things that my mum was presenting? No. You hear some of the stuff my grandma went through, you wouldn't believe it. My mum was telling me, even now my dad is saying to me, there's some stuff that's happened to me, Curtis, I can't tell you. How does that make him how does he parent? You guaranteed he passed stuff on to me. What he's given me, I am responsible for. It's mine. And he hasn't given me all bad. He certainly has not. And I was my mom. There's bad and good in there. And this is what generations do. We sort through the crack bit by bit by taking responsibility. It's just being honest about it. I'm a mess. Like, Munita, what can I admit to? Because I'm perfect, really. So what can I say? Yeah, like my dad, I go quiet when I'm angry. But like my dad, pushed past the point, and when it never really seen. She saw it once, actually. It wasn't against her, by the way. It was about 4 years ago now, isn't it? I was in court. It was, sexual abuse happened, wasn't with me. But people tried to fight me thinking it was my fault that the guy got convicted, right? Because the people are sticking up for the perpetrator. Strange world we live in, right?
Mm.
I was like, wait, I'm your friend. And it's about 25 people, about 3 guys were getting in my face, right? Wanted to do something to me in Kingston Court, right? Let's just call it out.
Oh.
All right, shall I leave it there?
You don't have to.
Oh, no.
You could just make your point of
Let me tell you.
You don't have to.
This is the trauma. This is what I'm taking on from my dad. Baggage, trauma. I've seen my dad lose his temper once. I haven't lost my temper in a long time, but when I do, it's bad. And it took me about 3 years to just come back to normal. And when he is just looking at me like, is this my husband? I'm like, yeah, let's talk about it. Because I ain't losing my temper again, especially in this house. You know what I'm saying? So I'm taking responsibility. I said to Juanita, this, and over the years, didn't happen straight away, over those 4 years, right? I've had to say to Juanita at intervals, monthly, I'm not doing well. I'm still angry. I want to hurt someone. I want to do something. Help me, talk to me. Juanita just listened. So I'm being honest about my journey, and the more honesty I am, is the more free I feel. But I am not living in anyone's prison, much less my own, because that's what trauma does. It's like bars, isn't it? And it traps you and it shrinks and it constrains you. And then some people, they will scratch out and bite and act abnormal because they're we're not respirating. We're not breathing in and out in our mind. So we're suffocating. All of this is going on. And I'm like, I'm taking responsibility for this. And then when I see my children, so it talks so long, I want to give them as little as possible, not by not saying anything, but by being honest with them and telling my kids, this is some of what I've been through. If it happens to you, this is how you deal with it. Let me leave it there. There's so much we could talk about.
So, guys, we've come to the end of our Q&A. It was a very heavy session. There was a lot of questions. Our therapy, yes, that was. You guys know I say deep it when it means it's getting deep, And today's session, even though it was Q&A, it was very deep. We got to the heart of some actual topics, so I hope you guys had some answers for some of the questions as well. I know you guys have put some questions in there. I will be collating that for the next Q&A we're going to do, so don't worry. Okay, don't stress. When we do our next live, we'll bring that on. But remember this, you've got to go on to the Marriage Council UK, okay? Click on the Patreon, sign up, get yourself there, see the exclusive content that we're dealing with, stuff within marriage and dating, okay? Some of the heavy stuff that we're dealing with here gets dealt with in much more, in much more expansion, because we're here to do it really, really quick. So if you're really interested in marriage, dating, relationships, head over to the Patreon, the Marriage Council UK, sign up, get yourself involved, you know what I'm saying? Because we're going to have some real conversations. But to my lovely guests, Juanita and Curtis, the blessed marriage couple, guys, you know what I'm saying? These are the guys I'm looking up to, you know what I'm saying? So we can also emulate, you know what I'm saying?
Not all the time, bro.
No, all the time, guys, you know what I'm saying? But, I want to appreciate you too. Thank you for coming on today and really just sharing your hearts in the questions and then the answers, because you guys have been very open and honest as well. Is there anything you guys wanted to is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to pull out there for the guys? Where can they find you? I know where they can find you, but
just to plug This Is Marriage UK. As I said, we've been going for about 6 years now, and we have videos on our channel regarding all aspects of relationships, including sex, divorce, blended families, men and mental health, We talk just to the ladies. So there's all different goodies there for you to access for free on our YouTube page, which is This Is Marriage UK, and for little snippets on This Is Marriage UK on Instagram. We have a project currently coming up called I Am Still Here. And you know, we've just gone through a year of madness. That's all I can say. It's been a tricky year. You know, even if you have prospered in this year and you've done well, it wouldn't have been a year that you planned. I remember, you know, this time last year, rolling into New Year and hearing the pun, 2020 is the year of vision. And it has been. We have seen so much. We have seen each other up close. We have seen our community and friends and family even closer. We have had time to look into ourselves. And so we are doing just a short series of videos called I Am Still Here. And it's just asking you to record a 1 to 2 minute video and to send it via our This Is Marriage page to let people know, the people of the world, that you're still here. It's been difficult. It's been a rocky road. It's been prosperous, or it's been a lot of loss, or a mixed bag. But either way, 2020 is still here. So if you're interested in joining us on that project, which the deadline is the 23rd of December, then please send us an inbox message at This Is Marriage UK. Your contribution could keep somebody alive to 2021. Thank you for having us, Kodja. I really appreciate it.
No worries at all. No worries at all. Kurt, you want to add to that?
No. What can I say to that?
I know.
This is why I prefer my wife to do the talking, because I'm undone like it, you know. But yeah, we appreciate you. You come on to the Marriage Council or This Is Marriage UK. You'll find us on both, and you can support us through the Marriage Council. You have the opportunity not only to access exclusive content which teaches you day-to-day living with your partner, your husband, wife, or to prepare. But you'll also, if you go to This Is Marriage UK, you'll be able to access how to make donations for people who will need therapy. So we're trying to help people access therapy via GoFundMe. We're doing pretty well at the moment. We've had some really generous donations, but it's for people who were particularly affected and traumatized and are slightly more unable to do normal life because of their past traumas. And so you have access. So if you go to This Is Marriage UK, click on the link in the bio, you can access all of our stuff. If you want exclusive content, you can find the Marriage Council or This Is Marriage and access Kojo's channel as well, which is very fruitful. Access it all, but we're here for a good cause, and we need your support in various ways. So please go there. You know, we might buy cigarettes, Jack Daniels. We subscribe to Netflix. Help us out, man. You don't need. You can put that away for a month, or put this on your shopping list. This is the good way to make your. Do you know what I mean? Am I going too hard now?
Wait, hold on a minute, Jack Daniels.
Yeah. Allow Jack Daniels, man, and subscribe to us. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's someone.
Thank you so much.
Crutch right there. Guys,
thank you. When it's late, it gets a bit loose.
With the Jack D.
The JDs, man.
Swirl it, baby. Guys, thank you again once more for joining us on this live. Audience members, thank you so much for participating. As always, we will be back later on tonight. I know the work don't stop for me. I'll be back at 12 o'clock midnight. I'll be having a live with Ashley from Put a Ring on It. So guys, get your questions ready. We're gonna have a real deep conversation. We're back also tomorrow, 7:30. Yes, I'm gonna be here with Sophie and also Raquel talking about Put a Ring on It, episode 8 live review. We'll also be back at midnight tomorrow as well for a review, or I should say interview with Brian from Ready to Love. Listen, I'm just trying to put the content out for you guys. Okay, so you make sure you're subscribed and got the bell button on. Listen, you're gonna miss all of this. Okay, but make sure also as well you go to the Patreon, sign up for the Marriage Council UK, because that's where the good, meaty, heavy food is for you guys who are going into relationships and also going into marriage. And even if you're single, it's good for you there to get ahead of the game. All right. So guys, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and we will see you later on tonight. Appreciate you guys a lot.